5 levels of Cantonese fluency. Most heritage speakers think they're at level 4, but then when they watch TV without subtitles or talk about deeper topics with their families, they're like, oh, 識聽唔識講. They realize parents slow down for them, simplify, dumb down their conversation. They switch to English when it gets complex. Honestly, I was the exact same way for years, so no judgment here. But after clawing my way from level 1 myself and working with over 600 heritage speakers to help them improve their Cantonese and learn Mandarin, my team has seen where most of the people struggle with their Cantonese learning and what level they actually are. Spoiler alert, it's usually a bit lower than they actually think. In this video, I'm going to help you identify where you stand and then share with you some tips that will help you hit the next level, starting with level 1. This is 識聽唔識講. We heard this saying all the time, but what does it actually mean? Well, it literally means what it says, right? You understand, but you can't speak. 識 means you know, 聽 means to listen, 識 means not know, 講 means speak. Understand but can't speak. If you're a heritage speaker, you probably just nodded. Welcome to the club. This is where everyone starts. And I actually was president of this club for way too long. Here's what you can do at level 1. You know you're at level 1 if your Cantonese is really basic. 食飯,飲水,我肚餓,你好. Very, very basic. At this level, you understand the basic. By the way, 食飯 is basically, all of our alarm clocks when our mom is yelling at home. But here's where it falls apart. The words are in there and you can feel them, but they die somewhere between your brain and your mouth when you try and respond. You respond in English, or you have to say single words like ho, ho, and then someone's got to kind of finish sentence for you, or you finish it in English. This is the baseline level of all heritage learners. And typically the reason that learners feel stuck here is because they don't know where to start, but more importantly, they lack the code to actually pronounce the words. When someone says a word, you repeat it, but you don't know the tones. You're just trying to mimic. You don't even know how a word is like spelt out. So for instance, right, Cantonese has 6 tones. And you can tell, for example, that hello is not nei ho, it's nei ho. Your ear has learned the tones to hear them, but your mouth never actually got the memo and you never actually identified what is what. Here is the fix, and here's what you got to focus on when you're at the 識聽唔識講 level. First, you need the pronunciation tools. This is tones and 粵拼. You need to know, for example, that me, 我 is spelled NGO and how to say it. It's like basic alphabet. Learn that the word for tripod is pronounced tri plus pod and not tree plus pod. Just to clarify at this stage, I don't mean learn characters and all that, okay? I do not want you to learn characters. You do not need to learn characters. Don't even touch characters. Just focus on 粵拼 and tones. We have an entire free masterclass in that, by the way, that you can get down below. I'll link below. It'll help you and show you all that stuff. What is the standard pronunciation of the romanization of Cantonese? 我 is NGO. Whatever tone it is, it will still be spelled NGO. So 我, all spelled NGO. And this is called 粵拼. Basically, they took Cantonese and made it into standard romanization, like an English spelling, so that you could learn it easily. You have to learn this. This is a must do. The easy part about this is that it's not like English, where it's like, for example, bear can be spelled B-A-R-E or B-A-R. Everything has a set one, and once you learn it once, you can pretty much spell any word. What this is going to allow you to do is basically, if you hear a word and you don't know what it means, you can actually look it up in a dictionary, because even if you don't know a Chinese character, you know what the spelling of that character is. Whereas otherwise, if you heard, for example, the word for 早點, how would you even spell that in the dictionary? 早, Z-O-U, D-E-E-M. You look that up, you get nothing. Whereas you look up 早點 in 粵拼, Z-A-U-D-I-M, hotel. There we go. That's why it's so important. Learn the 粵拼 and the tones. The tones basically just learn the 6 tones and learn about the word for, if you say 高 in tone 1, you get, PP, whereas if you say 高 in the right tone, you get enough. That's why it's very important. So first off, 粵拼 and tones, link down below for an entire masterclass on that. Second, once you have the sounds, you need to master super basic sentences. I'm talking about basic subject, verb, object structure of Chinese. Phrases like 我食飯, I eat rice. 我飲水, I drink water. At this phase, don't worry about complex stories yet, complex sentences, just master the pronunciation and these super basic phrases. Once you can output those basic sentences, even if it's broken, you graduate to level 2. Oh, and by the way, here's a little action plan to get out of level 1. Key thing here, tone and yuping, and most importantly, also get type duck. It's all in the guide below, but type duck is super important because it'll help you really internalize yuping and the tones in Chinese. Also, key thing is get a Cantonese dictionary app and start typing in Cantonese. It's not scary, I promise. Here we outline how to do all this in the guide. It's super simple to type in Cantonese. You literally do not need to understand or read a single word of Chinese characters. You just need to learn yuping, and all that is covered in the guide. Get that out and use it to help you get past level 1. Now, before moving on to level 2, here are some key phrases you want to master at level 1. 我想要, I want, XYZ, right? Put that in English. 係唔係啊? Is that so? Really? 唔該, thank you. 多謝. Remember, 唔該and 多謝are used differently. 多謝 is for gifts. 唔該 is for kind of like favors. 點解? Why? 幾多錢? How much? 好味 means very good when complimenting food. 我唔明, very important for I don't understand. And those are kind of like key phrases at level 1. Now let's move on to level 2. How do you know when you've grabbed level 2? Well, if, for example, you can make one request entirely in Cantonese, English, right, no pointing. For example, like, 唔該有碗飯我, or 我想飲茶. Okay, you can actually communicate a little bit. That's when you know you're at level 2. Level 2 means 識講少少. Once you can output even basic speech, even broken, you're at level 2. 識講少少, you can speak a little bit. Now, if you're at this stage, you're outputting, you're speaking Cantonese. Okay, it's not elegant, it's not pretty, but words are coming out of your mouth and people understand them. That's huge. Our parents might shun us for this. They might say, oh, your Cantonese so bad, but really, like, good on you. It's a good stage to be at. Where it gets tricky though is that, for example, when you talk to someone, the answers come too fast. Your grammar is creative, right? It's not exactly right. You have to switch to English very often. Strangers give you a confused head tilt, and you find oftentimes either you fill in the gaps with English and you complete switch, or your family fills it in for you. Here's the trap at this stage, and it's comfort. Your family understands you and you can switch to English when it gets hard. And so it's like, you know, I don't have to get better, but in reality, they're just being patient with you, right? And so if I can give you any motivation to get past this stage, it means that the people you care about, not having to dumb down their conversations with you, and you're able to have meaningful discussion with them, with your loved ones in their language. And it's super worth it. It really changes the relationship. And I say this from a guy who has very westernized parents. My parents have actually quite good English. Even with their good English, it's a very different dynamic when I talk to them in Chinese, and the connection is a lot stronger. And so if there's any motivation I can give you to get past this stage, it's to really unlock that, because it's so worth it. Now, the hard part for you at this stage typically is that there's no Duolingo for Cantonese that actually works. You're typically piecing together things from, you know, random family corrections, you know, YouTube videos, and pure guesswork. Kind of like assembling IKEA furniture, but all the instructions are gone, and also you have like 50 furniture with all the pieces in one place. Here's what actually helps at level 2. It's the biggest problem for all heritage learners, regardless of what level you are, is that they typically haven't ever properly learned Cantonese. So you can be at level 2, but you still haven't done the thing that the level 1 guy I recommended, which is you don't know romanization, you don't know tones. You just happen to speak more when you were younger, and so you're at level 2. And so while you have more fluency, your focus at this stage is still the same as a level 1 learner, which is learn Yuping, learn Cantonese tones, and get that Cantonese keyboard, and get that Cantonese dictionary app. Do not learn characters yet, or start learning reading. It will completely waste your time. This is where I see so many people get stuck, is they just focus on characters when it's a waste of time. Seriously, like, if you do nothing else today, just get that guide below and do the Yuping, tones, and keyboard, and that'll help you tons, I promise you. Because like I mentioned, once you do that, you have the ability to start filling in the gaps in your Chinese where you typically use English, right? When you don't know a word, you know how to look it up, and most importantly, because you know Yuping, you'll know how to actually pronounce it, right? Because you'll see that the word for DNC is spelled D-I-N-S-I, you can actually pronounce it. Now, once you have that, start learning sentence patterns at the stage and not just vocabulary. Subject, time, verb, object is a common sentence pattern. Questions and phrase and command. The biggest mistake I see people make at this stage is they focus and say, I don't have enough vocabulary. I need to learn the word for my major, biology or something like that. But that's actually the exact reason why this stage suck, because vocabulary is actually the least important thing especially in Cantonese. And the reason why is because in Cantonese, substituting English nouns is very, very acceptable. The key word here is nouns, because not everything substituting English is seen as normal. And so it's pretty normal to say, you know, oh, 我讀緊 biology. But if you say 我 study 緊 biology, you sound a bit more like, doesn't sound as good. It sounds a bit more like you can't speak the language. See what I mean there? And so I want you to focus this stage on improving your verb vocabulary rather than your noun vocabulary. Except that focus on getting the most common verbs of the stage and just use English for the nouns. Here's an example. 佢 told me 佢唔 want to eat 牛扒. This is a very weird sentence. On the other hand, 佢話佢唔想食 steak. Both technically work, but more commonly, people will sub in the noun in English rather than the verb. In fact, if you actually use that one with the English noun in place, to be honest, some people in Hong Kong will do that substitution. Like a very common one, 我個 friend 話佢唔想去啊. 我個 friend. They don't say 我個朋友, they say 我個 friend. So it's very common, but they would never say 我個朋友話佢唔想 go. Very weird. Substituting the nouns, very acceptable. The verbs, a little bit weird. Get the verbs down, get the most common verbs down. So here's your action plan. Focus on question particles, ending particles that make it sound a lot more fluid. Focus on these kind of questions, and then focus on very common verbs. Get all your verbs down. Whenever you're doing any kind of action, say, how do I say this verb in Chinese? And look it up. Look up that verb. For example, if you're grabbing something, say, I'm grabbing this in my head, and say, okay, wait, what's the word for grab in Chinese? Don't worry about the word for the thing you're grabbing. Worry about what the word for grab is. 攞, because 我 grab 緊呢個 is weird. 我攞緊我嘅 lavalier mic. Totally fine. Now, once you're comfortable with kind of everyday verbs, you bring it into level 3. The way to know you're here is basically just do a little test. Okay, if you can have like a brief interaction entirely in Cantonese and it goes pretty fluid, you're able to order food, you're able to have a conversation. Even if you have to use English nouns, you find yourself mostly using English nouns, but the verbs are okay, you've reached level 3. Now, level 3 is where most heritage speakers, most Asian Americans actually live. This is pretty much the default, and I say this with love because when I got to level 3, I basically lived here for years. Almost every heritage speaker I meet thinks they're level 4, but in fact, they're usually at level 3. It's not a bad thing. It's just the gap between where we think we are and where we actually are is usually about 1 level. Here's kind of what level 3 you're able to do. Okay, you're able to have full basic conversations with family. You're able to order dim sum without pointing most of the time. You're able to navigate Chinatown, handle everyday situations, you know, food, family, updates, you know, basic kind of everyday things. But the problem with level 3 is the moment topics get complex, English shows up. Okay, not like a word or two kind of thing, but you completely switch to English. You simplify what you're trying to say and you dumb down your conversations with your own parents. Not because they need it, but because you need it. Okay, you get frustrated because you want to express something to them, but it gets so hard, so you switch to English, which makes it feel a lot easier for you, but then the problem is they don't get it. This is basically me in high school trying to explain to my mom why I don't want to do engineering. And then I was like, Mom, 我唔想讀 engineering 因為, and then it was, okay, Mom, I don't want to be an engineer because like, it doesn't interest me, okay? I don't really care about engineering. And I explained it all, and you know what happened? I ended up doing engineering because she didn't get it. And so that's what happens when you have to dumb down your conversations or switch to English with your parents, because obviously my mom didn't understand what I meant because I switched to English, right? Not for her, but for me, because I couldn't actually express what I wanted to. The key thing about this phase is basically, you can talk about what you're eating, but you can't talk about how you're feeling. So the key thing at level 3, and this is actually the part where everyone messes up. Once again, they say, I need more vocabulary. Now, take that word out of your vocabulary, meaning like, always be specific, because what kind of vocabulary do you need? And I will say this, at level 3, the last thing you need is noun vocabulary. Because the reason at level 3 you're switching over to English when the conversation gets hard is because you can't form complex sentences in Chinese. And so how do you do that? Well, you learning the word for biology or the word for engineering as 工程师 is not gonna help you. What's gonna help you continue to keep the conversation in Chinese is mastering transition and linking words. And so these are words like because, so, therefore, since, suddenly. These are words that help you bring basic sentences into complex ones. You can still use English vocabulary here, just don't use it for the English linking words. Because remember how earlier I said, nouns are fine to put into English. Well, there's actually an order of acceptable to substitute English when it comes to Cantonese. And it goes like this. Nouns are the most acceptable. Okay, you can say, 我讀緊 biology, 我讀緊 economics, totally fine. And then it goes adjectives, verbs, adverbs, and then transition words. Transition words are very weird to use English for. And so if you're able to get the transition words in Chinese, one is it's gonna keep you speaking Chinese. It's a fundamental thing that links sentences together. And so you won't feel like you have to switch as much. And two is it's gonna make your sentence sound a lot more fluid. So let me give you an example. Judy 同我講佢好 surprised 因為佢個 friend 突然間話佢唔想去. Which one sounds more natural? That one? Or Judy 同我講佢好驚訝 because 佢個朋友 suddenly 話佢唔想去. That second one hurt my heart to say. So learn these transition words, and what it's going to do is it's going to allow you to turn your basic sentences into complex ones. Because otherwise, without them, it would be like this. Judy 同我講佢好 surprised. 佢個朋友話佢唔想去. See how it doesn't link why Judy's surprised? The second one is because you can only make simple sentences. But when you learn these transition words, these conjunctions in technical English grammar, complicated speak, you can link two basic sentences together to make a complex one, which allows you to form more complex thoughts. And that's going to allow you to maintain that conversation in Chinese. And that's something that I wish I learned back then. So then maybe if I did, I wouldn't have had to go to engineering school and I would have had a happier university life. These are the words and sentence structures that will help you form more complex thoughts and communicate fluently to your family. 因為我唔想去，所以我就留喺屋企. These kind of structures and conjunctions will elevate and multiply your ability to express yourself. So now at this stage, Ember, okay, no need to learn how to read and write just yet, okay? Skip that stuff for now. Now, I'm assuming you're a heritage learner, okay? And you're probably just like, I learned through osmosis growing up. You just happen to be more advanced in speaking than levels 1 and 2. So same thing here for you is if you haven't learned Yuping, tones, as well as how to type in Cantonese yet, type, not write, then get the guide to learn that first because that is the fundamental base. As well as some different structures that I think would be very helpful for you. So 雖然但係如果就不過 however 而且其實即係總之 in short 例如 for example okay these are very useful structures for you to learn at this stage. Okay, so once you're comfortable with those more complex sentences and you find yourself being able to link things together very fluidly, congratulations, you're at level 4. At level 4, you can follow some dramas, you can have complex conversations with only occasional English substitutions. And the best part is you're able to have real conversations, right? Your family doesn't have to accommodate for you. They don't have to translate for you. You can generally follow most things and hold your own in conversations. And not just hold your own, but actually express yourself. Confident Cantonese feels like your language now, right? You catch jokes, cultural references. It's just a language to you. It's just, okay, I speak Cantonese, right? It doesn't feel like a struggle. There's no anxiety anymore. When I hit level 4, it was like, I was able to actually express how I felt to my grandpa before he passed away. It was the first time I ever did that because in the past, it would always be like very broken. When I actually level 4, I was actually able to kind of like string in together more complicated thoughts and kind of share and actually have a real conversation with him, right? It wasn't just like, I'm hungry, I did this, I did that. It was like actually like real conversation. At level 4, every single day stuff is totally fine. Where you struggle now is news broadcasts feel like an entirely different language. Songs don't make sense. Formal discussions leave gaps. Basically anything a bit more formal, a bit more high level feels hard. And at level 4, this is where everyone thinks they are, and so they try and focus on high level vocabulary, and then they just learn nouns, and they still can't express themselves. And the reason why is because they're at level 3. But at level 4, what's actually missing for you is just vocabulary, specifically the nouns, formal register, like news type language, song type language. And weirdly, the fastest way to get past level 4 might not be what you think it is, okay? I'm not gonna say it's learn vocab. It's not that. Because my honest advice level 4 is to learn Mandarin. I know, this is a Cantonese video, but hear me out. Here's why. At level 4, you've pretty much maxed out Kitchen Cantonese. The vocabulary you're missing, the formal words, the professional language, as well as more formal structure, those are the main things you're missing. The problem is modern spoken Cantonese is full of English loanwords. And so Cantonese, like I said, is very forgiving. Like for example, 我個 friend 話佢唔想出去，我個 friend. And so you're totally fine and there's no consequence. And because Cantonese is so forgiving, you don't feel much draw to improve. Now, I will say this, improving is very worth it because you will able to unlock a lot more The thing about Cantonese is the more formal it gets, the more it actually resembles Mandarin sentence structure. For example, here's a Cantonese song. Bi joy zhou qing yan, zhou zek mao, zhou zek gao, ba zhou qing yan. That is a Cantonese song, very famous song. The reason why that sentence doesn't make sense is because it's actually written in what is more or less Mandarin sentence structure. And the reason why is because a lot of Cantonese formal documentation is written with that Mandarin sentence structure. Now, I'm not going to explain why in this video. There's another video for that, but just understand that that's how it is. We don't talk like that, by the way. Every day we don't talk like that. Like, you'll never say like, bi joy zhou qing yan, okay? Never say that. You say ho joy zhou qing yan. That's what you would say every single day. And so what this means is that when you learn Mandarin, you're gonna be accidentally filling in your formal Cantonese gaps at the same time. So what it is when you learn Mandarin, you kill two birds with one stone. And that's why I say the best thing to do at level 4 to level 5 is to learn Mandarin, because the effort to push your Cantonese from level 4 to level 5 is roughly the same effort as learning Mandarin, except with Mandarin, you get a whole second language out of it, and your Cantonese improves as a bonus. It's just like, it makes sense to do. The world of Mandarin, you get to unlock China, you get more job opportunities, you get to connect with a lot more people, and you improve your Cantonese as a bonus. And I'll tell you right now, it's about the same amount of effort once you have the right strategy, which we also have a guide on that down below that you can check out. So it's just like, why not? Right? It's like you get to kill two birds with one stone. And it's actually huge because another reason why people stay stuck at level 4 is, like I said, Cantonese is very forgiving. And it's like, you don't have to get to level 5. Dude, you can be fine at level 4. And so what typically happens is people, they set out to improve level 5, but then they give up because they're like, I don't really need this. Whereas if you learn Mandarin, you're gonna naturally get to level 5 as a result of learning Mandarin. You know, Mandarin, I mean, it's a helpful freaking language to learn. It's like one of the most spoken languages in the world, right? So it's gonna help you. And so you're gonna feel a lot more incentivized to actually wanna do it. And you get to improve your Cantonese level 5 as a bonus. And so it just makes sense. And so really level 4 is high. And if you're here, you can do pretty much 90% of what you'll ever need in Cantonese. For most people, level 4 in Cantonese is destination, and that's completely valid, right? The main thing you're missing here is just complex noun, adjective, and verb vocabulary. Complicated topics like mental health, deep career become challenging, and you can kind of get by subbing in English, but it just loses that fluidity fast. The problem is that subbing in English is totally fine, but in Mandarin, it's not as forgiving. And so that's what's gonna force you to learn those words in Mandarin. And then whenever you learn in Mandarin, just learning Cantonese as well. It takes like 2 seconds to learn that extra Cantonese pronunciation for that same character. Here's my advice at this stage. Once again, if you're an ABC, you probably got to this stage through osmosis. So if you haven't yet, do the exact things I mentioned earlier. Read, ping, tones, type duck, all that. Only difference now at this stage is I truly recommend at this stage here, just learn Mandarin. You'll struggle with complex vocabulary and more formal Cantonese at this stage. And like I said, the more formal you get in Cantonese, the more it resembles Mandarin. The more you require complex vocabulary, Cantonese is forgiving. So you'll be like, oh, I'll just use English. Whereas Mandarin is not forgiving. Okay, Mandarin, you know, the English literacy is a lot lower in the mainland. And so it's basically learning that in Mandarin, they pronounce it tomato, in Cantonese, they pronounce it tomato. That's literally all it is. I'm not kidding. So for example, you learn the word for bu in Mandarin, you just learn it in Cantonese. But, and then in Mandarin, you learn the sentence structure, 他不想去，因为他没有朋友. And you learn in Cantonese now, 他不想去，因为他沒有朋友. Now you've learned more formal Cantonese because you learn Mandarin. Only key thing here though is make sure you learn Mandarin from Cantonese. Okay, don't just learn Mandarin like a Guaylo, because otherwise it doesn't help you. Because otherwise learning Mandarin becomes 1, really, really hard, and 2, it doesn't help your Cantonese at the same time. So watch our masterclass video on that. Key thing, whenever you learn a new word in Mandarin, learn the same word in Cantonese. But make sure you learn it using the method we outline in our masterclass. Link down below, completely free. Just check it out and it'll help you learn Mandarin faster as a Cantonese speaker while also improving your Cantonese. By the way, key thing here is notice how I still haven't put in learn to read and write, by the way, okay? At this point here, there is still no need to learn how to read and write Chinese. Trust me, don't learn to read and write Chinese. There's literally no point at this stage. Which finally brings us to level 5. Now, level 5 is full native proficiency. Okay, let me be honest about what this actually means and whether you even want it. Level 5 is everything. News, academic discussions, formal context, period dramas, and classical Cantonese. You can read Chinese characters fluently. You understand regional variations, you know, Hong Kong Cantonese, Guangzhou Cantonese, you know, everything. You catch all the slang. Native speakers never, ever need to adjust for you. You can catch everything. Level 5 requires literacy, full literacy. Well, you don't need to write, but you need to read. But if you can't read comfortably, you're not level 5, you're level 4 with excellent speaking skills. And honestly, that's still amazing. Most heritage speakers will never hit level 5 And most don't need level 5. It's not a failure, that's just being realistic about what you actually need in your life. Level 4 lets you connect deeply with family, consume all the media you want, navigate any Cantonese community that pretty much covers what 99% of us actually need. Level 5 is for people who want to work in Cantonese professionally, live full-time in Hong Kong or Guangzhou, engage with written Cantonese literature and all that stuff. If you want level 5, this can require dedicated literacy study, extended immersion, and actually just learning characters in depth. Except that this path takes years, not months, but it's a beautiful journey if you want it, but it's not required. Like literally get to level 4, learn Mandarin, and you'll be good. Getting past level 5 into native level fluency, you can, but up to you. Now, key thing here is, notice how I never put effort to learn to read before level 5? Well, it's because it's not necessary for 2 reasons. One is you'll learn to read through absorption in the other stages, right? If you just do what I say for level 1 to 4, just by typing in Chinese, you'll learn common character recognition naturally. But at level 5 natural, you will need to learn to read fast and need to learn in depth, to learn radicals. So you can interpret unknown characters and start really like actually fully reading Chinese. But hopefully the previous stage will have given you enough of a base where the stage is actually quite easy. Yeah, once you have enough of a base, it actually is quite easy. Yeah, here's some stuff to do, but really, level 5 is not a transition to level 6, it's mastery, okay? It's getting to a full native level of Chinese. And you'll know when you're there. Whether it's Cantonese and Mandarin, hang out with people purely in Cantonese, speak only in Cantonese, get all the Cantonese jokes, be able to walk around Hong Kong, understand everything you see. You sound native, speak native, you understand jokes, puns, wordplays in real time. You can write formal emails or letters in Chinese, that'll help. You can switch between formal and colloquial registers appropriately, super easily. That's gonna require Mandarin, by the way. And yeah, you can just do everything you need, like legit everything I could possibly think of. I want to say thank you for watching this video because Cantonese has over 80 million speakers. Okay, we're a strong family. We're losing it generation by generation because a lot of people don't know how to learn the language or don't know how to improve in the language. They don't know how to pass it on. Grandparents didn't cross oceans for the language to die with us. Let's do our best to pass on this beautiful language to the next generation. So I really appreciate you watching this video and giving it your attention because it tells us that you're serious about trying to learn it better. Okay, so kudos to you. And once again, if you want to improve your Cantonese, we have an entire guide with resources that you can get from the link down below. Same thing if you want to improve your Cantonese and also learn Mandarin, which will help you no matter what. Hope you enjoyed that. Till next time, 再见.